Yeah, so I was at Bagram, my second deployment with the task force, and it was very built up by the time I got there. That actually, it doesn't necessarily mean it was more protected, though. So I remember flying into theater, right? I'm in the back of a C-17. I've got a hammock strung from the cargo to the wall of the plane. 17 hours just flying. And we land at Bagram Air Base, and we're sitting on the tarmac, and we continue to sit on the tarmac. And a few hours later, we're still sitting on the tarmac. Come to find out, there was a program at Bagram and across Afghanistan to reintegrate former Taliban extremists back into kind of the local national workforce.
Wow.
As you're aware, we would employ local nationals for things like helping us keep the base clean, for providing us food. Excellent work for even cooking their own local food, which is delicious, by the way, first of all. Well, over the course of time, and when I say time, I mean weeks, months, however long it took him, he had been bringing in, piece by piece, everything that he needed to develop a suicide vest. There was a dining facility, a DFAC. Near the moment we touched down in Bagram, he had completed his IED, and he detonated right outside of the Bagram dining facility. So we were sitting on the tarmac, not fully understanding why we were there. But the point I'm trying to make behind that is we were still in a designated combat zone. Regardless of how big we had built it up, regardless of if it was a FOB or otherwise, there was still very much a threat in 2016.
You're exactly right. You know, my first deployment was a combat deployment. My platoon sergeant simply said this: until your feet dry back in your living room, kissing your family and having a beer, you are switched on because you're in combat.
And we actually had to run information operations around the immediate outside of Bagram, essentially saying, watch it.
Yes.
So what we did is we worked with ODAs to, that was their kind of, that was their posture area. That was their AO, was essentially security, QRF for Bagram. We dropped leaflets, got up in a Black Hawk, kicked leaflets out the side that said, don't, because, you know, for Bagram to be as well built up as it was and for something like that to happen.
It still had porous security.
It did.
There's no way around it, and I think I'd love for our audiences to understand, because Americans are hearts and minds, because we live in a country in which we really believe in human rights, we're always trying to bring the people back in. And it creates a critical vulnerability, as well as the opportunity to uplift women's rights and to bring a better style of government with more representation. But the other side is it's so freaking dangerous. A dear brother of mine was murdered by an Afghan soldier that supposedly was on our side. And that is the cost of freedom. And I hope our audiences understand that the cost of freedom is that brothers and sisters go put their lives on the line and are in harm's way to fight for a belief. It's not we don't fight for a political party. We don't fight for a president. We don't fight for a Secretary of Defense. We fight for a dream of America in which everybody has a shot at being something better and making a life better for their children. And that is why we risk it. And that's why we also are vulnerable sometimes to these kinds of attacks.